again. This is Grant Swartzwelder, and welcome to another episode of the Grown Up Table. During these episodes, we talk about life and character and how it affects each of us. Today, we have a really kind of more heavier type topic. I would say that we're definitely going to be at the Grown Up Table, not the kids' table today, because of what we'll be discussing. But I think it's something well worth visiting about. What we're talking about is all the special needs children and people in this world, and what type of a life and what type of issues are associated with that. If you look at different studies, they say that there's up to 17 million special needs folks between birth and 17 years of age. Of that amount, 25% have functional issues as well. So that's 5 million people in this country that are challenged every day with movement, with learning, with financial issues. And so it makes it very interesting in my part to understand how that works and how a parent would handle that type, because you see them, special needs folks out in the public, and you just have to wonder what life is like to have that situation. A blessing in so many ways, but a challenge in another way. To talk about this subject, we are blessed to have Kayla Wood. She's an attorney. She's an advocate of her child and for the industry and special needs folks, and a mother of several kids. Could I say that Jeff is also, you're probably his mom as well? Probably that's what my
No,
wife
I won't
would
say that. No. He's an attorney, so I got to make sure he gets his own props.
All right, fantastic. But Kayla has a child, Elizabeth, who has spina bifida, and the conversation today is to talk about your experiences with spina bifida with Elizabeth and the challenges that you have. Yeah. So starting off, why don't you tell me a little bit about Elizabeth and kind of what she's like?
Okay. Well, I'll start. I've got 3 kiddos, 2 that are boys. They are 21 and 19, both in college. And then Elizabeth was our caboose. And, we'd had 2 normal pregnancies. And then all of a sudden, at my 27-week sonogram, I went in and we found out that she had some kind of a defect. She had bilateral hydrocephalus on both sides of her brain. And so it was really scary. My OB-GYN got us in immediately to a specialist. And then that day she was diagnosed with spina bifida. It literally means split spine. And so what happens is that you've got cerebral spinal fluid that your body's constantly producing. And hers doesn't go all the way around her body like it's supposed to. It starts in the brain and then is supposed to be excreted out. But hers can't do it because she had essentially a hole in her spine. And so the great news about finding out at 27 weeks was we had 13 weeks to prepare. And then we knew what kind of delivery we wanted, and we knew what kind of specialists we needed. And so we got her in immediately. Well, we got me in while I was pregnant immediately. Right. So we were able to really get, the therapies and everything that we needed. And we can go into extensive detail about that. But she's now 16, doing fantastic. If she rolled into the room right now, because she is in a wheelchair, you would probably not know that she's disabled other than the wheelchair. She doesn't know she's disabled other than the wheelchair. And even that, she sees.
And I want to talk about her and how her perception, your perception, friends' perception. But real quick on spina bifida, there's about 1,600 kids are born with spina bifida every year.
Is it? So at the time that she was born back in 2009, it was 1 out of 1,000 live births. But a lot of people, get told maybe you shouldn't have the child. But now our doctors didn't do that. So we were fortunate.
Well, and so that by the numbers I have, and I think it is very hard to understand what the numbers are because it's not a good recording of it, and it's probably getting even worse with the type data that's out there. But
probably
they say there's around 70,000 children with spina bifida. And obviously it creates mobility issues, physical issues, emotional, financial.
Yes.
So let's kind of walk through your story and Elizabeth's story.
Okay.
So you go in, you have the test, you find out, what are you thinking?
My first thought was, I'm having this child.
Okay.
Because, you hear horror stories about doctors that will tell you, either terminate the pregnancy or put them in a home and never, talk about them again. That's what they used to do, 40, 50 years ago.
Just warehouse them.
Yeah. And that was not an option for us. We have a very strong faith. And so we just prayed about it. We asked our friends to pray about it. And we continued on like, okay, well, we're going to have this baby and she's going to have a fabulous nursery and we're going to have showers and we're just not going to worry about the fact that, she's got a condition. We will deal with that cross that bridge when it comes. And, with spina bifida, there's a gamut. You can be kind of on a very high functioning end, and then you can be on a very low functioning end. We're kind of in the middle of that gamut. And so you didn't know what you were going to get, but that was my first thought. And then my next thought was, okay, what kind of doctors do we need? Yeah. So
now I thought there are some cases where you could actually have surgery in the womb.
There are.
But this was not a case where you could do that? Or
back in 2009, Duke University had just started doing it. The caveat was you couldn't be past the 24-week mark, and we were at 27 weeks when we found out. So we weren't a candidate, but I don't think we would have done it anyway. At the time, both my husband and I practiced medical malpractice defense, and we both had seen too many scary cases about babies and things happening. And so that for us was probably a no-go.
So the risk wasn't worth the reward of possibly correcting or improving?
Correct, because it was such a new procedure back then. Yes. So for us, it wasn't a consideration because we weren't candidates anyway. But now I have heard of, when you have a child with this kind of special need, you get in a group and you follow other people, in similar situations. And now I think they're doing it and it's very successful.
And I do also want to, my wife is very worried about this conversation because she knows that I can put my foot in my mouth very easily.
I'm not offended.
And so I'm going to start with what is the appropriate term? I hear the word special needs. Was that
I have to be honest. On the drive over here, I was even thinking, like, what do I say? Because do I call my kids normal? My other kids, do I call them able-bodied? I don't know. I mean,
seems like whatever you say, I'm going to offend somebody.
Well, you're not going to offend me.
Well, not you, but
you might.
I'm going to get social media. But so there's not a sit term for a spina bifida special needs.
I say, the thing that comes first is always the child.
Right.
So she is a child who happens to have a disability.
She is Elizabeth.
Yeah, she's Elizabeth. She's my daughter who happens to have spina bifida. So I don't ever want to say that she's, a disabled child or, So I usually say, I have a kiddo with special needs. I talk to a lot of my clients about it because I find that a lot of them come to me to seek advice because they too may be in the similar situation. But the most important thing I feel like, in my opinion, is you identify the child first and then you say, well, she's got some issues, Okay. But I'm not easily offended. I have very thick skin. And I feel like you kind of have to when you have a kiddo with special needs. I don't like the R word. Don't ever say that. I might punch you and I might get out of the room and walk away.
But she doesn't meet the standards of the R word.
Well, she's low IQ. She is. Okay. She's low IQ. Okay. Yeah, she's probably, 60 to 80 on her IQ. But again, if she came into the room and spoke to you, you probably wouldn't know because she can speak intelligently. But if you asked her to read or do a math problem, she might not be able to do it.
That part of the processing might not be there. So, all right. Well, now that I've got that figured out and I don't embarrass myself any more than I would normally. So you go through, you have the screening, you have some time to figure out specialists. Tell us more about that.
All right. So the minute we got the diagnosis was from Dr. Gore, who told me some fantastic news. And I want to give him credit for this because I ran into him probably a year ago, totally unrelated to, Elizabeth. And I looked at him and I was like, God, you look familiar. And he told me his name. And he said, I'm David Gore. I'm a doctor, whatever. And then I said, I knew it was you. And anyway, he gave me the best advice. And he said, he was the one who actually diagnosed it. And he said, you're going to ask yourself 1,000 times, what could I have done differently? And he said, I want you to know there's nothing you could have done. This is just how she was meant to be. And so after that, I didn't worry about it. Like, oh my gosh, should I not take my folic acid? Should we not, should we have waited longer to try?
So up to that point, did you have guilt associated with it?
Well, no, because we had just found out. This was in the same, in the same sentence. Hey, so your daughter has, spina bifida and, I have a child with special needs and I want you to know that, this is not your fault. And so that was the best advice. So when I ran into him 16 and a half years later and I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. And I told him and he said, I don't remember saying that, but it sounds like something I would say. And so that is key. Surround yourself with doctors who don't blame you, who help you. So he referred us to the spina bifida guru in Dallas. His name is Dr. Adams. We actually have an appointment to see him tomorrow. So ironically, I'm doing this today and then we see him tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Yes. And Dr. Adams, he is a wealth of knowledge. He knows everything there is to know about spina bifida. He has thousands of patients. So that's one thing I highly recommend for people that find themselves in this situation. So get yourself good doctors, get yourself good friends who will pray for you because, there's nothing scarier than knowing you're about to deliver a baby who could be paralyzed, could have anything. Yeah.
And I want to ask that question because I actually have the rector of my church. We're taping another one talking about prayer because you always hear, give us prayer, but is that enough? That prayer is great. Prayer is helpful, but you need actions.
Well, I will tell you, when you're in the trenches, you always talk about people that are in a foxhole. You don't want, there's no non-believers in a foxhole, right?
Yep.
So with us, what we really needed was prayer.
Okay.
We had the means to, hire the specialist we needed to, even though we had to finagle insurance, which I know we're going to get to in a bit. But we had the means, and we had we could order food, we could have all that. What we really needed was prayer, because we needed to get her as healthy as we could while we were in the womb, and then hope for the best case scenario when she came out. So, and we got very blessed. Yeah, good. She was good.
So then you go and you actually give birth.
You give birth, and it's crazy. So we had made arrangements. We knew that we needed, all kinds of specialists. I don't even know who all they had in there. I've got to be honest with you. I know that we had a third-year fellow because I delivered at Baylor, and they're a teaching hospital. So my doctor specifically requested someone who was going into obstetrics who, knew how to do a C-section. We obviously had a planned C-section. My doctor.
And do you have to have a C-section if you have a special needs child? Or
in her case, she had an open spine, and so. Going through contractions and labor and through the birth canal would not be good and could cause more damage.
See, I'm very medically attuned. I can actually figure that one out.
So to get, basically the hole in her spine was like a piece of cellophane, if you will, over the back of her wound. And it was a pretty big wound. And so you didn't want that cellophane to get any kind of injury to it, because that was what was protecting her from contracting any diseases. And so they did a C-section. They cut me probably 9 inches. I know your wife had a C-section. Hers is probably 3 or 4 inches. Mine is about 9 inches. My doctor also did an upside down T. So on the outside of my body is just one line, but on my uterus, there's also a T. And he said, he was a dear friend, God believer, and he's a great man. And he said, I'm going to do for you what I would do if you were my daughter. And I was like, okay, I'm in the best hands. So that was awesome. And then I don't know what kind of specialists they had in there. I have to be honest with you. I know there were pediatric specialists. I know that she did swallow some amniotic fluid and some meconium and all, so we won't get into this gross.
So they had to they took her out, and did they do surgery almost immediately on her?
24 hours later.
24.
Yeah. So,
and is that to patch the cellophane hole?
Correct.
Okay.
So basically, I didn't even get to see her. My husband got to see her very briefly. They whisked her away to a room right after she was born. They wrapped her in more cellophane to protect her so she didn't get any kind of diseases. Because, meningitis is a common one. She could have died. It was scary. So, and then about an hour or two later, she was transported via ambulance. We'd already had this arranged because I delivered at Baylor. She was transported to Children's, and my husband rode in the ambulance with her. And he said it was like a mini NICU where there were 4 nurses and doctors like staring at her, with their hands on their thighs, just watching her. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. Scary as all get out, but interesting. And so anyway, we had it all planned and arranged. We knew she was going into surgery 24 hours later. They closed the hole 24 hours later. A week after that, they did a shunt. One thing that they've realized.
I'm sorry, what's a shunt?
A shunt. It's a VP shunt. So what it does, because Elizabeth's hole in her spine, her cerebral spinal fluid continues to build and build and build. Okay. And so in order to drain it, they put in a shunt. And her doctor is incredible. He is Dr. Bradley Weprin. He is one of the prominent pediatric neurosurgeons in the area. There's not a lot of them. There's very few. Yep. And he was amazing. And so he closed her back the 24 hours after she was born. And then he put an adult-sized shunt in her brain that they roll up like a garden hose. And then as she grows, it grows so that she didn't have to have it replaced. And I would knock on wood because, you don't want to jinx it, but I don't want to mess up the microphones.
There you go.
My last name is Wood, so I'll just knock on myself.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
And so since then, how many total surgeries has she had, or is that it?
Well, she's had a couple of surgeries for dental work just because she does have a gag reflex. So that's kind of unrelated. Otherwise, she's only had one major surgery. About 40 years ago, they didn't know that spina bifida would affect your kidneys. And so they didn't check your kidneys. They just thought everything was normal. You're going to the bathroom normal. Everything's great. Well, then they started realizing that a lot of children with spina bifida, especially her injury is L3, L4. And so she has had her kidneys checked since she was born. I mean, we go regularly to have her kidneys checked. And on one of those occasions, they discovered that one of her kidneys was necrotic and it was only functioning at a 4% level.
Ooh.
And so they removed it. They expanded her bladder and they had her TT now out of her belly button. Because when you're in a wheelchair, it's very hard to get out and go to the bathroom. You know, imagine transferring. And she's heavy. I mean, girlfriend weighs about 120 pounds now. I don't weigh a whole lot more than that. I mean, unfortunately, you know, a little bit more. But anyway.
I'm not here to judge. Yeah. I'm not here to.
But anyway, so yeah, now she doesn't have to move out of her chair because it was getting harder and harder for us to lift her. So now she just catheterizes out of her belly button, which is amazing. So that was a major surgery. It was 10 hours long. We were back at Children's again, and can't say enough great things about them. I know your wife volunteers there a lot.
She does.
Yes, but anyway, though, so yeah, it's been amazing, and it gave her the independence so that I no longer had to be with her all the time. Now she can go to the bathroom by herself, so it doesn't require me or my husband to have to do anything.
Provides her independence. Provide y'all.
And so that's when I went back to work after she had got her independence. Now she's feeling great because she can go to the bathroom by herself. She doesn't need a nurse. She doesn't need us, and so that's when I went back to work, which was very helpful for me.
And has she always been in a wheelchair?
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, you know,
And is that typical of spina bifida that you need
to
go?
Like I mentioned when we started this, it's a gamut. So it just depends. Most of the people that we know with spina bifida are also in wheelchairs, but there are some that have it that are able-bodied and can walk. It just depends on what kind you have. She had a myelomeningocele, and so hers affected her walking. But, you know, she considers her wheelchair her freedom. So she thinks it's a good thing. She's like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to walk. You know, this is great for me. So she loves her wheelchair, and it doesn't faze her at all that she's not able to walk. So, yeah.
So let's talk early childhood.
Yes.
Development, functionality, but also educational functionality.
Yes. Okay. So we were very fortunate. We moved to the Lovejoy ISD school district when Elizabeth was 15 months old maybe. And we purposely moved there because they are very well known for their special ed. And we wanted all of our kids to go to the same school. So we literally chose a house that housed the special ed program and that would also feed into the same school where my boys went, so that all three kiddos were there. So Elizabeth started therapy at 6 weeks old. She had little fists that were like bunched up like this, and so she worked with a physical therapist.
From public school or
well, this was private.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not until 3. So, like I said, she had 5 or 6 therapies a week: speech, feeding, physical therapy, occupational therapy. We started music therapy. We did early childhood intervention. I mean, you name it, anything that was available to us, we did. And when I tell you we were doing therapy 6 days a week, we were, or 5 days a week, 6 different modalities. But I also put her in to our church that we went to. I put her into the preschool program there, just like I did my boys, because I said she's got to learn social interaction. So, and
were the teachers at that church able to? Obviously, they were able to handle. But
I mean,
were they trained or were they?
No.
They learned how to.
Yeah, she was 1, and so she was, pretty much doing what everybody else was at 1. They were all kind of just crawling around. Maybe some of them were walking, but they just put her in a stroller and wheeled her around whenever they needed to.
Okay.
And I never even asked. You'll hear me say a lot, ADA. I rely on that a lot. And I was just like, until they tell me no. Plus, it's a church. Who's going to tell you no at the church? You know what I mean? Right. We had been members there. All our babies were baptized there. We had gotten married there. And I was kind of almost like, I dare y'all not to. You know what I mean? But no one has ever told me no. And so my thing is all you have to do is ask. I mean, and then if they tell you no, then you can find them. But the church was willing. They kept her there from the time she was 1 until she was 3. And then when she was 3, she was eligible for the PPCD program. It's the preschool program for children with disabilities. So then she went to that 3 or 4 days a week, every day that they offered it. It was only like 9 to 12 or 9 to 2, but still it encouraged social interaction. It got her out of the house. It gave her therapies that the school then provided. So yeah, I mean, it was great.
And you would think a loving environment for
her.
Yes.
We had some wonderful teachers who I'm still Facebook friends with them now. I mean, she's outgrown the program and they've gone on and retired and things, but I'm still friends with all of them on Facebook. They, they all want to know how she's doing. So it's been great.
So you mentioned public school, you threw out ADA. There's IDEA as well. So let's talk about that, because you can be an advocate, but you need to know the regulation, the things out there that can kind of give it a little
Yes.
meat to it.
Yes. Well, the great thing is for my husband and I, we're both lawyers. So we had access to things that probably not everyone does. But nowadays, there's the internet, which is such a great resource.
Right.
And I know people talk badly about the internet, and there's all kinds of things with social media, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes,
and maybe a bottle of wine for that one. But anyway, now there's so many resources. Like, I highly recommend to people all the time, get involved on Facebook groups with your kiddos who have similar disabilities as your child. You can do all kinds of research about, like, how do I do this? And you can type it in, literally ChatGPT. How do I go about doing this for my kid who has these limitations? And what are the laws in Texas say about, ADA compliance? Elizabeth does cheer. She's been in cheer since she was in pre-K. So I was her coach all the way up until 7th grade, and then 7th and 8th grade she went into the school district, and now she's a JV cheerleader. And they have been amazing. Our school district has accepted her in every way. And we were yes.
And it sounds like they're probably good people up there, but ADA requires them to do.
Well, it's tricky because the problem is you have to try out like everybody else.
Okay, the cheer part, but some of the other things that we're talking about, with training or just how they interact with.
Oh yeah. There are so many laws that protect people with disability, and we're very lucky because there didn't used to be. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, they used to say put them in a home and don't tell everybody that they died. It was awful. Nowadays, ADA is so great. So
But do you think that's just at Prosper and Lucas and some of those places up there, or do you think Dallas Independent School District or others, the larger urban, have that same type of care? And I have a certain mind on that, but
I have a certain mind on that because the story I was about to tell you was when Elizabeth went to cheer camp this summer. We are in a small district, but we've when you were talking about the number of individuals with disabilities when you started this, I want to say that we have 1,500 students in our tiny district that fall under the category of considered either learning disabilities or totally disabled.
I'll put you on the spot. 1,500 out of how many?
4,600 students.
Wow.
Maybe?
So 30%.
Yes, I would say about a third of the students because people move to our district because we are so good. Now, don't everybody start moving there.
There you go.
Well, I mean, you can because it's fabulous.
We've reached our quota.
Yes. So I do think that we probably get a lot more hands-on, better treatment, more resources than the urban schools. Now, I can't say for sure because I haven't lived in an urban district in, 15 years.
Right.
Or even before that, I lived in Plano. It was a little bit bigger, but I don't know the answer. I mean, my gut feeling is not as great. I have a friend, this is what I was going to tell you. So we're at cheer camp and Elizabeth is, doing all the cheers and doing everything with everyone else. And this mom approaches me and she said, "Is your daughter the one in the wheelchair?" And I was like, "Yes, that's Elizabeth." And she was like, "I need to talk to you. How did you get her in here? Are you paying for this yourself?" All these kinds of questions. She's in a district outside of Austin, which I consider Austin a fairly disabled friendly kind of a district.
Austin as progressive.
You would think so, yes. Her district, she's struggling. She can't get her daughter. They won't put her in the cheer class. They've allowed her to she has the uniform and she can come to some stuff with them, but they didn't pay for her to come to cheer camp. They wouldn't allow her to attend cheer camp even on her own dime. I mean, that's just wrong. So I've helped her. Yeah, I've been an advocate for helping her. I mean, I was like, go to Channel Fox, 4 News or whatever. Just go to Fox and say, "Hey, this is what the district is doing to me." But I'm also a little petty.
But do you think they were doing it within the realm of ADA and doing all that they need to, or were they shorting?
I think they were shorting her, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
And that's my opinion as a mama bear and my opinion a little bit as an attorney.
I know you don't know all the details, but it does seem like there is, because unless you're willing to push, unless you're willing to advocate for the child, then it's amazing how the size of the entity can push back on you.
It's amazing how if you don't ask, they're going to tell you no. And they're going to try to do that over and over.
I was about to say, but even if you ask, they'll probably tell you no.
Yeah, but this is my thing. Why? What does it hurt? Why aren't we teaching?
Isn't it money? It's
but is it money?
Well, I don't know. I'm throwing money because I just don't want to go through the trouble of it.
But what does it hurt to allow someone? It teaches empathy among the able-bodied, normal children, as you want to call them.
You're kind of there to help educate and help kids.
Every kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I don't know the answer that they've turned her down. All I can tell you is that we've had a wonderful experience. My husband is on the school board, and it's interesting to me because when the school makes decisions about what kind of bark do we put down on a playground? They'll look at my husband during a meeting and say, okay, can Elizabeth ride on that kind of? And he's like, nope. And they're like, okay, we're going to do the one she can get on. They use her kind of as an example. I think there are actually 3 people on the school board that have children with different learning disabilities. One of them, I think, is autistic, and I forget what the other one has, maybe another autism. But it's really good that they are inclusive of those parents, because then they can represent everyone. So if there's 7 people on the school board, 4 of them have all able-bodied kids, 3 of them have some kiddos with some learning differences. It's nice to have that.
Yeah. So, good for y'all, bad for others in that it seems like y'all are in a very unique situation with the school, with the advocacies that y'all provide. Now let's watch your blood pressure go even higher.
Insurance.
Insurance. There we go. That's all.
How did I know?
Yeah.
You brought it up before
we talked about the size of the entity pushing back. Well, insurance is the behemoth that can really push back in a way that just makes it. And I bet even as good lawyers and good advocacy that you provide, it's still a challenge.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
So tell me about your experience with insurance and how to deal with that and what you've
First of all, keep fighting. The more you fight, the more you appeal, they've got to listen to you at some point. Like I said, go to Fox News. I mean, we never had to do that. We were fortunate that my husband's firm at the time had a company that helped us with our appeal. My husband was a partner in his firm, so he was a decision maker on the insurance that we had. And so he would be like, look, I'm a decision maker on this. You either help my child or we're going to move on to somebody else. We also had the people that helped us appeal. They turned down her wheelchair. It took me a year to get it. And what's interesting is if she were on Medicaid, she could have gotten it in about like 6 weeks. Instead, it took us a year.
And Medicaid is a financial, you have to be below a certain amount?
Correct.
So y'all didn't qualify for that?
No, we did not.
So you had to go through an insurance.
Correct. So if we were uninsured or we didn't have, a certain a set amount of money, and I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, sure.
Then we could have gotten the wheelchair in 6 weeks.
And what was the reason why Elizabeth didn't need a wheelchair?
Her physical therapist had recommended that she have a power wheelchair. They said that the pushing with a manual is going to affect her rotator cuffs. And so they recommended the power chair. And the insurance company did not want to buy it because it was like the price of a vehicle. I think the thing cost $60,000.
Wow.
Anyway, we fought, we got it. Now, her last wheelchair, so the insurance companies approve a new wheelchair for her every 5 years. And so her last wheelchair, I had to fight and work really hard for. But I will tell you, there are some things that are advantageous. I mean, I always say membership has its privileges. When we just bought her a new car, because our old one died, in Texas, you don't have to pay taxes for your vehicle if you have proof that she's handicap accessible. Now, it took me, we bought the car in July. I literally just got the license plates a week ago. So getting the license plates took me from July until end of November.
Handicap.
These aren't even handicap. These are just the license plates that I had to get to prove that we didn't have to pay taxes. And now that I have these license plates, tomorrow, after we go to the doctor and get our doctor's note, we get to go down to the DMV and get the handicap plates for Texas. Because you had.
So here's a side thing that since you use obviously the handicap spots,
right? Do
we have too many handicap spots or not enough?
So this
is definitely going hard left into a ditch here. But
so here's my thing.
As someone that doesn't need handicap, I go and there's like 6 of them sitting there. But now you use them, so those 6, you need one of them.
I need one of them. And what's crazy to me is I feel like that handicap parking is given out too freely because we will go into an event or a grocery store and there will be not a single person in there in a wheelchair because I look, and there's not a handicap place available. And I'm like, there can't be this many handicap people in here. What in the world?
Just wheelchair though isn't.
No, you're right. There's other things. There are, but I mean, that's kind of the main one that you can tell. Even people that are walking slowly or anything like that. So. My thing is, it's not that there are too many or too few spaces. I feel like that the doctors are handing them out like candy. I also feel like people are parking in them that don't need them. Like they don't even have a tag. So one day there was a FedEx truck and it was parked.
Let's call them out.
And they were parked in a handicap spot and I took pictures and I complained to I'm a mama bear when it comes to fighting for my daughter.
Sure, as you should be.
There was another time there was a mom parked in one at the school. And I called them out on the loudspeaker. If this is your license, it wasn't me. I mean, it was the front desk. But I was like, here's the license plate number. I need you to have them move their car. Because they had parked in the little white lines, and my car had a lift that went down on the right-hand side. Yeah. And then there was the superintendent at the time, he's no longer with us. His assistant parked in the last handicap spot in the parking lot. And it was the day of my daughter's like 4th grade program. It was raining. And she was like, well, I was only there for a few minutes and it was raining. And I was like, I don't care. I literally went and was banging on the window. And I was like, what is your name? She would only tell me her first name. And I was on a first name basis with the superintendent. And I was like, imagine my surprise when I found out that she was from your office. I mean, I sent him a scathing email. And like I said, I was good friends with him. I was on a first name basis with him.
Well, all of this kind of ties to a lack of self-awareness and kind of and kind of how folks just worry about themselves. And we've talked about this throughout this podcast. And it is just amazing how it's...
Yes, we're a very egocentric nation.
Okay.
It's
Well, let's keep going through this process. So now she's in high school.
Yes.
What happens in the future? How's this play out?
Okay, well, so that's interesting you ask, because we've kind of been talking about this lately. School districts in Texas, I don't know about other districts, but in Texas, you can stay in the district until you're 21. Ours and Lovejoy, we have this great person who's kind of a transition role, and she will meet with your kiddo and she will say, okay, what are your likes? What are your interests? Where do you think you want to go? Her sped teachers are incredible too. They've reached out about this. So when we had the universities come to visit the school, I don't know if they did that in private school, but in public school, the universities will come and they'll have like a table and it's career day and everything. Well, they also bring, the military and then other things for people who may not go on the college track. Elizabeth will likely not get into a regular education type school because she can't take the SAT or the ACT. She has like a 3.5, 4.0. I don't know. She makes A's and B's, but they're in resource classes, so you have to take that into consideration. But at this fair day, career day, college day, they had a table that had makeup, and Elizabeth loves makeup. She is all about TikTok, and she is all about, watching these people do all their, fancy makeup and everything. Should have had her do mine this morning. But anyway.
You look just fine.
But anyway, so she was intrigued by this. And so we went over, she got all the information, brought it home, and then we did a college tour, if you will, of this makeup institution over in South Lake. And so it's an 8-month long program where, you get trained on makeup for 3 months. And then I think you do hair for a month. And then you do 4 months of like really cool, like, think the Thriller video back from our time, like, bolts and zombies and, all that kind of makeup. So she was really intrigued by that. So that's an option. I think, could she go and work at like an Ulta or a Sephora? Absolutely. She could stock stuff. She could tell people about products. She knows all about makeup. So I think that is an option, if that's the makeup route she wants to go. There are colleges, I will name your alma mater. Texas A&M has a program, that is one of the best in the country. They were one of the first people that did it. It's for kiddos with special needs. Elizabeth's very interested in going to visit that. UNT has one as well. And then there are other schools like Clemson that has one, but there's no way she'll make it that far.
But with something like that, can she live on her own?
Well, A&M requires her to live on her own. Now, would I probably get an apartment down there and hang out the entire 4 years? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now, what A&M offers is it's not necessarily a degree. It's more of expose you to the college, expose you to some schools let you go
Gives
through.
you an experience.
Yes.
Makes you feel a part of the.
Yes. And some of them let you go through Rush. I don't know if you've seen any, or now they call it recruitment. But back in the day, it was called Rush. But some of them let you go through Rush. If you've seen, even fraternities are doing it, where they're accepting kiddos with, learning differences. They might have, I don't know, name anything. But anyway, so it's really great that they're inclusive because, again, like when I mentioned cheer, why wouldn't we include these kiddos? You're going to encounter them in everyday life as a grown up. Why not learn to, live with them and go to school with them and cheer with them? My son's basketball team had a manager who's one of Elizabeth's friends from her class. And, he's in the SPED resource class and he's one of the managers and he just wants to be part of the team. He didn't have to play, but let him go and enjoy it and be part of the team.
So it sounds like you're very involved with your child.
Yes.
Obviously. So
yes.
Could she live on her own, and would she live on her own in the years to come, or
ever, or immediate future?
Maybe not immediate because she's 16.
Yeah.
But kind of, how do you look at when she's 20 or 25, and How do you forecast that?
Well, kind of with everything with Elizabeth, we've just taken it day by day.
Okay.
So she always seems to get where she needs to be. So like she can't really read, but yet she can kind of start to read. You know what I mean? She didn't know her colors, but she got there. So my thing is could she eventually get there? Absolutely. Now, Elizabeth, loves to be taken care of.
Sure.
But she's the baby. My husband was like, when she was born, he said she's the youngest, she's the only girl, and she's special needs. He's like, she's the trifecta.
There we
So,
go.
she is a little bit of a princess. So
Where'd she get that from?
probably her dad.
Okay. Well, there we go. Now we know the dad.
No, it's totally me. And my husband says that all the time. It's totally me. And that's okay. I own it. But so I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. And my thing is just, I always worried, would she get a prom date? Would she get a homecoming date? Like that's the kind of things you worry about as mom. You know what? Elizabeth doesn't care that she doesn't have a date. She says, take me to the school. I'm going. I want a dress. I want the flowers. I want the whole thing. And she goes and I'm like, do you want me to walk you in? And no. I was like, okay. So, she's so independent in that regard and she doesn't care that she's disabled or really know that she is. So every time I think I might underestimate her, she proves me wrong. So,
But a lot of that has to come from the parenting she received. And we talked earlier about how
maybe
that you force her to tie her shoes.
I do.
To
I do. Well, maybe not tie her shoes, but like put them on.
put them on. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, and the example I gave you when we started was if you've ever seen the movie Ray about Ray Charles, there's a poignant scene in the film where he's about to lose his vision. He's very young, maybe 6, 7, 8. I don't know. He's young. And he starts losing his vision and his mom is in the room where he is and he's calling out to her and he starts feeling his way around trying to, find how things work because he can't see. And she watches him and she has tears going down her face. And to me, that was so inspiring because I was like, I've got to let her do it herself. And, she may fail. She may fail a million times. She might need a little bit of help getting there, but how's she ever going to learn to do it if I don't make her do it? And so that's why whenever she wanted to do cheer, I was like, okay, well, she's going to do cheer. And I don't even think I told, ASA. She did through Allen Sports Authority or whatever it was called. I don't even think I told them that she was in a wheelchair. I just said, we're doing cheer. And she did it. And then she played softball. And I was blessed because the coach of her softball team has a nephew who is special needs and in a wheelchair. So the softball coach was like, of course Elizabeth can play t-ball. Of course she can. So Elizabeth played t-ball. She did dance at a regular dance studio. I've never put her in anything that was, specifically for sped kids. I've just always... I do send her to a camp. I should take that. I take that back. But it's not just a camp for just kids with spina bifida. She goes to the Texas Lions camp down in Kerrville, Texas. It is amazing. They have some for diabetics. They have some for physical needs, like Elizabeth falls in the physical needs.
Sure.
If you can be blind, you can have an amputation, you can be in a wheelchair. They're phenomenal. And it's free.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I get goosebumps. Like it was one of those kismet moments where we were walking into a restaurant and this gentleman was like, do you mind if I ask about your daughter? And he said, I am a lion. He was a Texas lion. And he said, I'd like to give you my card. I want your daughter to go to this camp. It's incredible. So that is one camp that I did put her in that, was an able-bodied camp. And my thing was I didn't want her just to be exposed to spina bifida kiddos. She needed to know that there was all kinds of things. And she's not the only one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
We have a previous podcast talking about college kids being coddled.
Oh, yes, I'd listen to that one.
You could argue that a lot of people are coddled, and it's very easy having a special needs child to
for sure.
coddle them.
And we probably do some. I know we do.
Well, yeah, you're going to, but
do.
I think to give them the independence and the ability and the desire to do their own thing has to pay off in the years to come.
I think so. But you're not, I always say Elizabeth wasn't given an operation manual when she was born. So we just wing it. Jeff and I, we don't know what we're doing. We're lucky that we're educated. We can get, information we need. Right. We know how to do research and stuff, but we don't know what we're doing. We're making it up as we go. But yeah, she didn't have an owner's manual. So, I hope we're doing it right. We're doing our best. What more can you ask for?
Exactly.
She's happy, she's loved, she's secure. So what more could you want for your kiddos?
2 more topics. We're about to run out of time, but it's one. You talked about your spirituality, your Christian beliefs. How do you jive that and God's will with what you've gone through?
Well, I feel like we all have our own cross to bear. This is just Jeff and Mike's cross and Elizabeth's cross and my boys' cross. I mean, they have to help.
Sure.
When Parker, my middle one, is home right now, and they're stronger than I am. And Jeff had to have back surgery last year. So we're like, Parker, you're up. You lift her. You put her in the bed. You put her in the shower. Don't worry, she's clothed when he puts her in. It sounds weird. But anyway, my thing is you aren't promised that life isn't going to give you challenges, and it makes you appreciate that much more when I guess you get to the Holy Land. I've never been there, so I don't know. But when we get there,
well, you hear the phrase that God will only give you what you can handle.
Yeah, 100%.
But is that just cliche?
No. Now there are some days when I'm like, okay, God, I'm at my limits. This is what I can do. But
I see the edge right here.
Yeah, He's answered all our prayers. He's taken her this far. He's taken great care of her. Like I said, she's got the confidence. I mean, I'm a pretty confident person. She's probably 10 times more confident than I am. She has, like I said, she goes into homecoming by herself. She doesn't care. Like she just is like, oh yeah, I'm going to go dance the night away. I'm going to own it. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, maybe if she weren't in such a great space, then maybe I would be really sad and I would question things. But people always say, why me? Well, why not me? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so this is just what we've been given. These are the cards we've been dealt, and we're going to play them. And hopefully we're going to get a couple jokers and some aces thrown in. And so we just make the best of it. I don't know. I don't know. I've always had strong faith. So I don't know how to answer that because this is just part of life. You're always going to have challenges. So yeah.
All right. Last question.
Yes.
You say you have some princess qualities.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make you queen or king or pope or whatever you want to be made.
Queen.
Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
It's so. What would you change in society or rules or there's all sorts of elements from financial to insurance that could make things better for a child like Elizabeth and parents like you and Jeff?
I think I would like people to have empathy. Because
so not all the stuff with insurance, it comes down to an individual.
Mm-hmm. It comes down to because insurance we can handle. I mean, it's a pain.
Well, but also if they have empathy, that would drive their decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. She's never gone without anything she's needed. So, and I will say we had to negotiate a few things, like her neurosurgeon who did her surgery, he came under contract with the insurance company that we had at the time on September 1, after she'd had her surgery on July 28th or August, whatever it was, a week later. So he was willing to accept less, and the insurance company was willing to take more if she'd been born 4 weeks later. And so I was like, that's ridiculous. So that kind of thing. So insurance, we worked out. They worked with us. I think she cost $250,000 to be born, and I think we paid $8,000. So in the whole scheme of things, that's not bad. I can't complain. Her wheelchairs that maybe take me a while to get, we've always gotten, and they're a good 15, 20, 25,000, depending on how she got older, and bigger. And we maybe paid 1,500 of that. So insurance is not my main problem. My main problem is empathy. I want everyone to empathize that, you may have things that go perfect in your life and everything may seem great, but just pay attention to those around you because not everybody has that, and so if the parents are the ones who teach their children, right, how to act and how to respond. So if the parents are kind to my daughter, then their children are more likely to be kind to my daughter and to those like her. So why wouldn't we want to be sweet to people? I just don't understand, So I think that's what I would change. I would just want everybody to be empathetic because but by the grace of God go I, because you could find yourself in my position or Elizabeth's position tomorrow. We're not all
That's
promised.
So true.
Mm-hmm. So,
well, Kayla, thank you very much.
Thank you for
what a
having
wonderful
me.
story.
Thank you.
When we try to clear the table right here,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that keeps in my mind going through is that you and Jeff are such great advocates. You've got the legal background,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're able to help your child. But I look at all the other kids out
Mm-hmm.
there that don't have those benefits,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder about the individual being able to advocate for themselves
Mm-hmm.
and be able to push against the insurance, against the school.
Yes.
And it's just so sad that there's probably so many folks out there that just don't have that same ability. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about Grown Up Table and talk about conversations on life and character, I think the word empathy is definitely the right word to talk about, and looking at how you can help individuals like that, whether it's just some legal advice, and I know you do this for a variety of other people, or just small things of just saying hello and providing support. And with that, I think you would really brighten someone's day and maybe help them get to the next point. So with that, thank you for being at the grown-up table, and look forward to having you join us at a later time.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.